but we ended up signing a listing agreement for 16 properties in his portfolio with a list price of over $256 million. And that was my first listing.
Whoa. My name is Kevin McIntosh, and this is The Closing Table, where we talk to experts about their experience in real estate all across the country. Let's go. Welcome back to the Closing Table podcast. I am your host, Kevin C. McIntosh. And joining us on this episode, very excited to talk to him, a former broadcaster himself, so we got a lot to talk about. We want to welcome Chris Vogt to the Closing Table. How are you, Chris?
I couldn't be better. If I were any better, I'd be triplets.
I love it. We starting off already with great energy, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule and accepting our invitation to be here on the Closing Table. We appreciate that.
Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
Absolutely. So let's get to know you as a person before we even talk business. Chris, if you can, in 60 seconds or less, tell us who you are outside of real estate.
So family. I'm a husband. My wife and I celebrated our 40th anniversary earlier in 2003. So it's exciting, starting 2004, and we're getting to be our 41st anniversaries coming up. Father of 4 children, 2 of which got married, and we have grand twins. And then, of course, I'm a man of faith. Okay. So my faith is very important to me because faith is about future, and I'm always looking forward to what's next. Even when I was in the hospital for 27 days, 27 months ago, I was looking towards the future and where would I be when I got out of the hospital.
Very. First of all, I respect and honor the fact that you're a family man, but it sounds like you have a very interesting story that led you to where you are right now already. So I'm excited to hear more about, what led you to where you are right now. But yeah, let's keep going. Chris, I want you to describe your business. We're here to talk about real estate. Describe your real estate business, right? And if you are able to, hit on a few key points. Exactly where you're licensed, how long you've been licensed, and any notable achievements, and what you consider your specialty or niche. Explain that to the audience.
Okay. First of all, I'm licensed in California, but you like to ask questions at the end of your podcast. And a couple of episodes ago, last year, you asked if you were to move from one coast to another, would you be willing to do it? And I'm getting ready to move from California to Tennessee. And so, yes, I love adventure, and I consider my real estate career to be an adventure, not a journey, because it's full of excitement and wonder, and things are happening all the time that are new. I embrace change, unlike a lot of people who are afraid of change. It's like change is awesome because change means progress. So,
correct.
So that's what I'm about. And I'm in a different space than most people because, number one, I only do commercial real estate. I don't do any residential. Now, when I got my license, this is my 3rd or 4th career, depending on how you count. And so post-retirement, I retired when I was 42 after doing a hostile takeover in the Silicon Valley, running the company, and then cashing in my chips early so that I could be home with my family while my kids were growing up. Oh, Kevin, I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, but do you remember Cat Stevens and that song he did, Cats in the Cradle and the Silver Spoon? No.
I remember.
Oh, you got to check that one out. Harry Chapin wrote that song, and it's a ballad about a son growing up always wanting his dad's attention, and then he never got it, and then when he grew up, his dad retired and wanted his attention, but he was too busy. Okay. And so I didn't want my kids to grow up without a dad. So when my kids were 8, 10, 12, and 14, I cashed in my chips and retired, but I was still active while I was retired. But only 6 years ago, September 1st of 2017 is when I launched into actually residential real estate at first. And then I found I could do commercial because I had a background of 40 years in commercial real estate. 40 years before I got my license, because I grew up in a family that bought, leased, and sold commercial real estate. And then when I went to college, I did marketing for a company that sold pre-development real estate in Southern California. And after college, my first career out of college was I went into financial planning, became a certified financial planner and a Series 7 licensed stockbroker. And I sold commercial real estate syndications as a stockbroker, and as a financial planner, I supported my clients by helping them make great decisions with regards to their personal and their business real estate needs. So, it's a little different background that we're bringing to this story than most people.
Correct.
So I do commercial real estate, and I do it on a national level. So I'm doing, just a couple of days ago, I was on the phone with an agent who brought me a client in Oklahoma. I'm working on a large multi-million-dollar commercial medical project in San Diego. San Diego is only about a 10-hour drive from where I'm at in Northern California, just above Sacramento in the foothills where gold was discovered. You might have heard of the California Gold Rush, It all started right here where I live.
Okay.
But what I do that's different than most people is I use my 40 years of experience of being involved in commercial real estate through our family business, being involved as a certified financial planner, a stockbroker, a tax practitioner, and that advice that I gave, and then being in the C-suite in the Silicon Valley where I managed our company's commercial real estate portfolio. Hands-on, negotiating things, doing acquisitions, and property management. So you bring all those things together, and now I'm a wealth of resources for agents, specifically residential realtors or resi-mercial agents across the United States, helping them get their deals done.
Interesting. It's so interesting how you got led to commercial especially after what you say, 40 years of experience in commercial real estate. You still end up going into residential, but then just saying, you know what? I know I can do commercial. I know I can do it. I'm too familiar with it already. I've been talking about discussing it with other people. This is where I need to be. And you've been thriving ever since.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Thriving ever since.
Well, it's a series. You may have heard of the hero's journey, right? That whole that story arc that's used in successful movies like Star Wars. And so when you look at life, I've gone through a series of heroes' journeys. And so it's been a lot of fun.
Love it. Love to hear it. So you talked about it briefly. Let's dig deeper into your market, right? I want you to describe your market for us. 2-part question. One, describe it geographically, and we'll get into the other part later. Geographically, so describe the actual market, the city or whatever that you actually serve. Go into the details in regards to the landmarks, things to do, notable attractions, how you would describe the culture, the environment, the weather, etc. Please, for someone who may have never been there.
So if you look at my overall market, it's coast to coast. Okay, so we've got everything. But if you look at my personal market where I'm doing the personal deals I'm doing, it's really the state of California. And California has got a very diverse environment, both meteorology, weather, and also geography. Lots of landmarks. Where I live is between Sacramento and Reno in Auburn, California. And so if you're starting downtown Sacramento, it's about a 45-minute drive to my home. And my house is 2 freeway exits below the snow line. So we've got 4 seasons in this part of California. You can maybe see just a little bit the trees in the background. I live up on a hill, so I've got a beautiful view behind me. And usually I'm facing the other direction, so I'm looking at the view. But it's just too much fun. So my personal market is basically Northern California. My first listing was actually a portfolio of commercial properties throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. 16 different commercial properties, everywhere from
Sheesh.
Sausalito to wine country, Petaluma, Santa Rosa to Antioch,
Mm-hmm.
which is in the East Bay. And so 16 different properties. All right. So even though it
Nice.
took me, depending on where the property was, from 2.5 to 4 hours to drive to the property, that's still one of my personal listings that I've had in the past. But like doing medical tends to be what I end up doing a lot of, which is kind of
Mm.
weird. I was pre-med in college, so maybe it's just because I get along with docs. But I've done all kinds of things. I do a lot of ground up development work, working with agents to sell raw land that's going to be developed on. We're working on a couple of projects now. I got a project in Oklahoma that I kind of mentioned a moment ago that we're working on. And I've got a project in Stockton, California, which is about an hour south of Sacramento, where I'm helping a
Mm-hmm.
small business work through the economic development. That's actually Manteca outside Stockton, working through the city of Manteca and helping them go through that whole thing with zoning, because this property is going to have to be rezoned for it to work for my client. And so there's a lot of really fascinating things to do when you're doing commercial real estate. And so, like, a lot of times it's investment property where, hey, Kevin, you want to buy a property? I had an inquiry just yesterday, a text from an agent in Ohio saying, Chris, hey, I got a client contacted me today. He's just cashed out a property in, I think it was Florida, and he's got $850,000 and he wants to do a 1031 exchange, but their budget is like 2.4 million. And I'm like, okay, great. This is going to be fun. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
questions I had to send back to him. It's like, where do you want to be? What kind of property do you want? Because there's so many
Right.
different asset types within commercial real estate, and
Mm-hmm.
some of my favorites are things like self-storage, you know. And in California, one of the things I tell people is like,
Mm.
hey, California is really not friendly to landlords. So if you don't have a lot of experience in being a landlord, we got rent control out here. And we've got a lot
Ah.
of owner versus occupier issues, because the whole legal system and the environment in California is really skewed in favor of the occupier and against the owner. If you are a savvy occupier and you want to scam the landlord, it's not that
Oh wow.
difficult for you to get up
Oh
to a
wow.
free year of rent before the courts can kick you out. If you know the
Right.
system,
Right.
okay? And if you are a small investor, okay, Kevin, I imagine you probably have some real estate, but it's probably single family stuff, right? And if you have one rental and you have a mortgage on that rental and you're depending on your tenant to pay the rent every month, and they decide, no, I'm not going to, how long could you last with your cash
Oh
reserves
my
before you'd
goodness.
have to give that property back to the bank? And in California, the whole system is skewed against you as the landlord. It's totally in favor of the occupiers.
Man, wow. See, I've heard things like that before, and maybe not specifically in California, but the process, depending on the state and the municipality you're in, the process of evicting someone or trying to collect rent from someone who refuses to pay can take a very long time if you are in that situation, or at least longer than you anticipated.
But
So
it's
it
not
would get
just
to the point to
time.
where you would have to pay for it.
Look
Go
at the
ahead, please.
legal expense. How many how
Oh
many
my goodness.
attorneys do you know that will be
Yep.
willing to work for you pro bono?
Yeah, good point. Good point. Good point. Yeah, so I couldn't imagine that to the average viewer or audience member. They may think that you're speaking negatively about it, but I don't think that's necessarily
No.
the case about home ownership and anything like that, especially in California. It just really means you have to be well prepared. Ultimately, well prepared for the worst case scenario. Obviously, correct.
It's understanding your risk before you enter into a transaction. So my
Perfectly
background
said.
as a certified financial planner has got me thinking all the time about what are the risks and how do we mitigate the risk. And
Mm-hmm.
that's part
Mm-hmm.
of what I do as an agent and supporting other agents around the country is they don't think the same way that I do because of my background of being in the C-suite, being an owner, investor, being an advisor, and the tax background too. Having a tax practice for 12 years really gave me a different perspective on things that you need to think about when you're looking at investment from a tax perspective.
Interesting. Great points too. Speaking of money, let's talk about numbers and money, if we will. I want you to get into the second part of describing your market that you serve by getting into some of the economics, the data. What are some of the average price points, listing to sale prices, if that's all terminology that still applies to the commercial world, and just average time on market? How is the commercial real estate economy in your market?
You know, one of the things that I love about commercial is the diversity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm looking at commercial projects in the last couple of years, the smallest project I did was supporting an agent from, I think he was in Minnesota, and he had a client that needed to lease space out in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I actually helped him lease 673 square feet on a 3-year lease. All right. And so they paid basically peanuts, but this is a company that has offices all over the United States. And when you provide great customer service, it can open doors so that you can do other projects.
Good
So
point.
small projects to large projects. Do you mind if I just share a little bit about my first listing?
Come on, please, please.
This is fun. So Kevin, you're talking to mainly residential people, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. And I would guess that across the United States, $500,000 is a nice listing, because
Oh
some
yeah.
markets it's 100,000 or 50,000 or, a couple hundred
Mm-hmm,
thousand.
mm-hmm.
In commercial real estate, I've had some small listings, but my first listing was a referral. In fact, this kind of sets me apart from most people, I think, because every single transaction I've been involved in has been referred to me by someone else. I don't go out and knock
Nice.
on doors
Nice.
to try to, talk to people and say, hey, will you list with me? No, I talk to agents and say, bring me your commercial people as a residential agent and let me support you and pay you a referral fee. So I was actually working with a
Ah.
commercial broker in New York City, of all places. And
Uh-huh.
we were working on some large projects. I mean, projects that were, like high 7, low 8 figures. Okay. Just little things. And
A
so
little change.
just little things. Yeah. And so we're working on these things. I call them up and I say, hey, I'm going to go to this networking meeting. What project is kind of forefront that you'd like me to pitch? It's downtown San Francisco. We're up on the 53rd built story of one of the office towers there for our meeting. So we got some
Mm.
people that they got access to a little bit of change, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so what are you interested in? What do we want to push today? And he's like, I really don't have anything today. But when we first met, it was because someone was looking for a property, and that's how we met. And that guy, he still has his property. I'm going to introduce you to a real estate attorney in Los Angeles. And it's up to you to impress him so that he introduces you to his client. All right.
Mm.
So
Mm.
he introduces me, and it takes me like weeks. Commercial real estate isn't like residential, and you have to be persistent.
Yeah.
You have to have tenacity, right? So it takes me
Yeah.
like weeks of texting and emailing and leaving messages on his cell phone and his office phone with his gatekeeper, And finally, I get through to him. We have a conversation. And he's like, well, let me ask you a couple of questions. So I answer the questions. He's like, Chris, you've really impressed me with how you're so professional in the way that you've been cultivating this relationship to get to me. And you've answered my questions. I'm really comfortable with you as a professional. And the person that referred you, I know, like, and trust him. And so I'm going to introduce you to my client. So then
Mm.
I had
Oh
to get through
man.
the client gatekeeper, right? Got a
Yep.
hold,
Client gatekeeper.
got a hold of the proper people, got an appointment on the schedule. Now, this is a person that owns $500 million personal real estate holdings. Okay. So how busy do you think that person is managing his real estate empire? Little
You would
busy?
think very busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my expectation going into this meeting was that I'm going to have maybe 10 minutes max to be able to make an impression on this guy. And so I walk in there and he's kind of busy fidgeting. His desk is filled with investment prospectuses and offering memorandums and, property things and blueprints, all kinds of stuff. It's just covered. He's a very busy person. And he's in his 80s. But he's more active than most 50 and 60-year-olds.
He is moving. Yeah.
Yeah, moving and grooving. And so I get in there and I'm starting to talk to him and I start asking him questions. It's like, hey, here you are. You're in your 80s. How did you get here? And tell me your story. And he told me a story about immigrating from a foreign country, coming over on a boat, right? And that he came to America with less than $20 in his pocket. And he was a scrapper, and how he built his career and his learning experiences. Now, he called them failures, but I call them learning experiences,
Right.
Because we build on that. And so 2 hours later, 2 hours, he's like, Chris, this has been one of the most interesting conversations I've ever had. And you've asked me questions that no one in my entire life has asked me. Not a single person has ever asked me some of the questions you've asked me today. Can you come back next week with a listing presentation?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He ended up, it was a process that took 3 months. But we ended up signing a listing agreement for 16 properties in his portfolio with a list price of over $256 million. And that was my first listing.
Whoa. 200. I want to make sure 256 million.
Yes.
And this is your first one, you said, right?
My
your
first listing. One? Yes.
Dude, wow. That is a lot of pressure for someone doing their first transaction. A lot of pressure.
No, because it's just a matter of zeros. Just move the decimal point over. It's the same process whether I'm working on that 673 square foot office and gaining the trust of him versus the trust of someone who is a half a billionaire.
Yeah. Good point. I like that.
The
mentality. I like that.
But most people, they live in fear, right? They're willing to talk to the person who wants to list, wants to get 673 square feet on the lease, but they don't know how they would be in the same room or talk to someone who owns a large portfolio like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. When you got to the point where you said he finally broke and said, no one has ever sat and asked me these questions. I've heard this before where and it's not even maybe not even on a business networking, but I feel like you can apply this to so many different points in your life where someone you can see if I approach this person, I can get value. I can give value and I can also get value. It can be a win-win situation. But how do I get to this person? Is this person's always busy? Will they have time for me? And you'll start to be your own worst critic. You'll be your own block, your own obstacle to achieving your goals just to get to the other side. Just saying hi, just introducing yourself, just to get over. So when you said that, it made so much more sense because it just shows that we are our biggest obstacle in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Just getting there. And it just took you to just talk yourself into, let me just go to where he is and just ask some questions. So, you kept a lot of things into consideration, his time and what he has going on, but your approach obviously worked. It was flawless.
Let me ask you a question,
$256
Kevin.
million.
Do you consider yourself to be an out-of-the-box thinker?
I would like to say so.
Now ask me the question.
To say so. Do you consider yourself an out-of-the-box thinker?
No. And here's why. Because the box is a mental construct, and I don't believe the box exists.
Facts. That's a great point. That's a great
If you
point.
don't
You got
live
me.
in
You got me.
boxes, then you
got
have
me.
unlimited potential. And there's no reason to fear talking to someone who is in a different social or economic strata than yourself.
Good point. Good point. I love it. I love it. Great information, great perspective that you're giving us so far, making me think a different way. I want to get into the fact that certified trainer for commercial real estate classes is currently what you do. So what teaching methods do you find most effective in helping others grasp the complexity of the industry? And I'm asking this specifically because education is an important part in helping your clients move throughout the process. Everyone will say that, but it's the teaching methods that you really have to pay attention to see if the person on the receiving end comprehends that. So what would you say is the most effective teaching method for your commercial real estate classes?
Mentoring. Mentoring is the most effective, but I'm also active on social media, and I just launched a YouTube channel in 2023, Valentine's Day, actually. And so one of my projects, now that we're in 2024, and thank you so much for having me, is like, I think I'm your first guest for 2024.
2024. Yes,
really
sir.
excited about this year and excited about the opportunity and the unlimited bounty that's coming this year. Okay. And so I've actually got a couple of thousand people that follow me on social media. I have a VA. And so what we did is we actually reached out personally to over 2,000 people and asked them, what questions do you have about commercial real estate that you would like answers for? And so I've got answers from, it's getting close to 100 people that have actually answered. And so I've got this spreadsheet of all these questions and queries that people want to know about commercial real estate. So I'm going to be doing this series of videos on my YouTube channel on commercial real estate. One of the first ones I did is called Commercial Curious, where I did an interview with an agent with over 25 years of experience in residential who wants to move into commercial real estate. And we had a conversation, and we just recorded it so we could share that conversation with the world through YouTube. But personal mentoring, so first of all, it's a funnel. You always have the funnel, right? And so part of the funnel is you have to reach out to people in generality. And then as people narrow down, we figure out who can we work with. And even a lot of times being a team leader during COVID, you don't mind if I diverge just a little bit, do you?
Please.
During COVID, after I got that $256 million listing, people are like, Chris, how'd you do that? People came to me and they're like, Chris, can I be on your team? I was like, well, I don't have a team. Well, I'd still like to be on your team. So I launched a team August 8th of 2020, right? Right in the heat of COVID. And within 45 days, I had 13 agents in 9 states on my team. And here we are in COVID, right? We can't go out. We can't go talking to people. But from August 8th of 2020 over the next year, we closed about 100 transactions. And I never saw any of my agents face to face. We did everything by Zoom. All right. We had client meetings on Zoom. We had our training for our team on Zoom. And so doing that personal thing, and it's like people would come to me and they're like, Chris, I'm so excited. I'm like, great, let's do this. And then after 3 weeks, they stopped showing up for the team meetings. And so I've got something I like to call the rule of 51. Now, this is something that you may not have heard of before. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share the rule of 51 with you, okay?
Please.
And that is, if I am coaching you, if I'm mentoring you, Kevin, you have to want your success at least 51%. I can't want your success for you more than you want it for yourself.
Correct. That is a great, how do I want to, great rule of thumb to go by, essentially. Because like I think I stated this before, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You can supply all the resources, all the material, but they have to actually want it. They have to actually want that information, and they have to want to comprehend it.
Yeah.
What I also want to speak on.
Oh, just a second, because this is good.
Go ahead,
so
please.
You said you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's not
Yeah.
true. It's not true.
Ah,
There's a way,
please, come on.
and that is you have to learn how to salt its tongue. How do you make it thirsty so it wants to drink? Okay, and
Ooh.
that's what I like to do is with my social media and stuff is I'm helping agents understand that commercial real estate, even if you're 100% residential, you can still make money off of commercial real estate. Okay?
Right, right, yeah,
Do
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what the referral fee would have been on if I had gotten this from a residential agent to be introduced to the guy where I had a $256 million listing? It would have been
Ooh, I
more
could
money
only
than most
imagine.
agents make in a decade.
And no,
Okay? And people
that's
introduce me
real.
all the time. Residential agents is my number one referral source.
That is amazing. First of all, can I applaud your unconventional thinking and ways of figuring things out? To say that is first of all, that's a common saying. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You go on an opposite out of the no box type thinking.
There is no box.
Put salt on their tongue. Never heard this before. I love that though. I love that, Chris.
So this
Great,
is what
great
happens
mindset to
when you
have.
talk to someone with over 40 years of business experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Good
and this
point.
is
Good
this
point.
is why I've been successful in my niche, which is helping other clients. One of my team members, successful broker in the San Francisco Bay Area, joined my team and wanting to get into commercial real estate. He never did a commercial project while he was on my team, but
Mm.
he would come to me all the time with his residential things and say, Chris, 25 years, I'm not sure how to handle this. And I'd say, oh, that's easy. Because I'm drawing from my experience as a tax practitioner,
Right.
my experience as a certified financial planner, my
Mm-hmm.
experience as a stockbroker, my experience as being in the C suite in the Silicon Valley. And I'm saying, look at it this way. It's not the way your typical realtor looks at things, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
way to be pragmatic and help the client understand how it's possible.
Yes, yes, 100%. Man, and the fact that you said you were closing deals with agents that you were teaching but never met them in person, that just speaks volumes to the system that you created, man. That is very, very important to create a system that is efficient and effective and productive, and that you can insert pieces and take them out and it will still run the exact same way and produce the same results. That's what I had to speak on, because you talked about it, but you kind of went through it. But I just want to kudos to you for that, because that just shows your level of intelligence and how you can convey that to other people also to help them become successful. And that speaks to your mentoring, like you said earlier. But I want to piggyback on that, right?
Yeah.
So you said mentoring is one of the effective ways for
Most
teaching,
effective
right? To
way.
getting things through. Most effective, right? I like that. So how do you approach, either you yourself or anyone in general, approach finding a mentor or a partner, in that commercial real estate space specifically? And what qualities should they look for, criteria, when actually selecting a mentor?
You know, this is a really good question because commercial real estate is so different from residential. I have residential
Mm-hmm,
agents
mm-hmm.
coming to me all the time saying, hey, Chris, what extra licensing do I have to do commercial real estate? I'm like, well, you don't actually have to have another license in most states. But if you're a realtor, the code of ethics says that you can only engage in transactions in that you have the knowledge and experience to do them. So you need a mentor. You need to find someone. And it's difficult in commercial real estate to find mentors because commercial real estate is a very closed environment for the most
Yeah,
part. And so, how do you
yeah.
break into that? It's not just like a glass ceiling; it's a glass dome. Are you old enough to remember Get Smart, the TV show, and the cone
I
of
do. Yeah, I
silence?
remember.
And it's like you
Yes.
got this cone of silence, and you got the commercial realtors inside talking to each other, and you can't hear what they're doing. But it's like, I want to be in
Yeah.
there. I want
Yeah,
I
I
want
want
to
to be
know
in the
what they're
circle.
talking
Yep.
about because it's this
Mm-hmm.
this club, right? And it's possible to break into the club, maybe not to be accepted by commercial agents as much as coming from residential, but
Mm-hmm.
there's one big thing that can differentiate someone to help them break into commercial real estate. And you're going to be surprised maybe when I tell you what this is, because it's super simple. It's basic. It's like that. I think it was Vince Lombardi, after winning the Super Bowl, he goes into the Knicks locker room meeting, says, "This is a football," and it boils down to customer service. Do you know how difficult it is, even me as a commercial guy, to get commercial agents to return phone calls, to return emails? I mean, they have
everybody's
listings.
busy.
They have listings that's like, "Hey, I've got someone that's interested in your listing." And it's crickets. Okay. And
Too
so
busy.
one of the things that I spend a lot of time teaching agents to do is how to communicate so that they want to listen to you, so that you can get through to people. And so when you're a residential agent, you're used to return. Well, okay. If you're one of the top residential agents and you actually answer your phone and return your phone calls, because I think the majority don't, you already have a leg up on most of the commercial people out there.
I 100% agree.
And clients are more concerned that you are that you're accessible and that you communicate. And one of the things I help rookies understand is people don't expect you to understand everything, but they expect you to be able to say, "Hey, look, this is something that I'm going to go talk to my mentor about. I'm going to go talk to my team leader about." Okay. It's not just me that you're hiring. It's me plus my team.
Yeah.
I've got multiple people whose resources I'm bringing to the table.
Yes. Man, see, that's so funny that you mentioned that, because mentoring is so important, and finding a mentor, like we discussed, is so important. Customer service and communication, it can't be taught, but I mean, it can, but it can't. It's more of like the habits. But ultimately, what I want to speak on, you are speaking 100% correct. It's something so simple. Communication is essential when it comes to that. I reach out to, it's probably been thousands of agents at this point. I all across the country. I'm calling, I'm emailing, I'm texting. There is a very small percentage of agents that either respond, answer the phone, and even smaller, that they accept the invitation to be here on the closing table. Everyone is too busy.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it's the reason, because I'm not trying to buy or sell a home, they're not interested. But nonetheless, it's still about being personable, being able to communicate, having an open line of communication. What if I am trying to invite you to the podcast initially, but then I say, I am also interested in the home?
Yeah.
You could miss that opportunity just because you don't want to even hear anything about a podcast. You see what I'm saying? So when you spoke on that, it seems so simple. But it is 100% correct. And you can apply that to almost any part of your life in any aspect. So customer service, communication, I 100% agree with that one.
So let's get back to answering your question, okay, Kevin?
Please.
I apologize. You look like you were going to say something. Do you have something you want to say before?
No. I was just going to say it's a quality that's not necessarily valued. It's undervalued quality, excuse me. Communication and customer service. Yeah. But yes, continue.
All right. So let's say that you want to break into commercial real estate. All right. Here's what I would suggest you do. You need to interview people. You need to figure out number one, who do you click with? Because vibration, it's like you got to be vibrating at the same frequency so that you are in harmony with each other, right?
I agree.
Okay. So
I agree.
Harmony is really important. And two is, if you want to do multifamily, you're not going to be mentored by someone who's doing industrial. Okay. Now,
that's correct.
If you, when I advise agents to break into commercial real estate, it's really simple. All right, Kevin, go out, talk to everyone you know who's a real estate agent. Okay. And let them know that you are now engaging in commercial real estate and that you have joined a team, you have a mentor, and you want to be their trusted commercial advisor. So please bring your referrals to me. Okay?
I like that.
Number two is you have a sphere of influence. Everyone that you've closed a transaction with, starting with most recent to furthest out chronologically, contact them and just say, hey, I love doing business with you. Thank you for doing business with me. If you have another home that you'd like to buy or sell, I'd love to help you with that. But I'd like you to know that I'm now expanding my horizons and I'm in commercial real estate and I've joined a team. I have a mentor. And so I'm really excited about my new adventure. All right. Now, notice the wordings that I use. Okay. I don't like saying journey.
Very selective.
Journey is freaking arduous. Okay. It's a lot of work. An adventure is filled full of excitement and anticipation.
Fun. Yeah.
Fun.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Yep. We're going to have a lot of fun because every deal is different. It's so much fun.
I like that. Very particular with your words. I understand it 100%.
But you've got to find someone that you can work with. Now, someone like me who has experience in industrial and multifamily and medical and office and all these different things because of my career leading up to real estate. I mean, I even do ag. Okay. How many people do you know that sell farms? Right. Yeah. I've got a $3.2 million ag listing in the Central Valley of California. And I sold an almond orchard last year, So there's a lot of different things. And so when you have someone, one of the benefits that I have is having worked with a large team across multiple states is the frequency. All right. It's like, do you play basketball, Kevin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you go out to shoot hoops and you're trained to maybe you have a kid, a 6-year-old kid. I don't know. Maybe you're old enough to have a kid. I don't know. But let's just say, let's pretend you have a kid or a nephew or a niece and they want to learn basketball from Uncle Kevin. And so you're like, okay, let's go out here and you show them how to have the proper form and how to shoot. All right. And you say, okay, now we're going out here and we're going to shoot 1 basket today. Are you a good mentor? No. Because, okay, we're going to go out there and we're going to shoot 100 baskets or until your arms fall off, whichever comes first.
Yeah, whichever.
Okay? Yeah.
Yep.
And see, the thing is,
that's
it's
the way. I get it.
Because I'm working with multiple agents all over the country, I'm not just doing, commercial agents do 1, 2, 3 deals a year. That's it. But like I said, in 2020 to 2021, my first year with the team, we closed 100 transactions during COVID. Okay, so how much experience do you think I gained, more than my team even, because I'm involved in all these transactions? They're coming to me and saying, hey, Chris, I need you to review my transaction. Oh, hey, this is great, but here's a little detail, because the devil's in the details, right? Okay, right. You need to fix this detail so that this will be successful.
I got a question for you, Chris. Something I just thought of while you were explaining that. Commercial real estate being different. One of the big things commercial real estate is different. Well, separates from residential. Your transactions take a little bit longer to go through than a traditional residential, right? Like you can get through a traditional residential in about 30 days, close or whatever the case may be. It's a little bit different with commercial. How do you personally stay motivated to continuously attack going with this transaction, even though it may or may not close? And how do you also pass that on to people that you are also mentoring to stay motivated, to stay involved, even though this transaction could be taking 6 months?
6 months? That's like a short one, okay? Remember that farm I just mentioned a couple minutes ago? The yes. $3.2 million listing? I started working on that over 36 months ago. 36 months invested in this transaction, okay? And unfortunately, one of the spouses died just recently, okay? Late in 2023, the spouse died. And when the spouse died, now there's all kinds of complications. And realistically, it could be 4 more years before we close that deal.
No.
Okay.
No. And
so what do you think will keep me motivated to continue working with this person for 7 years on a $3.2 million transaction? It's it's not the transaction, it's the person I'm working with and me wanting to support them and help them. It's about relationship. When you are successful in most things in life, I think it's because you're not focusing on your personal gain. You're focusing on how you're serving another person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And now I'm serving a
Agreed.
widow, you know? So I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
do what I can that's best for her and not best for me. And what's best for
Yeah.
her is she has this income stream coming from the property that while we're sorting through the estate issues, that she's able to rely on. And when we get the right buyer for the right price, because right now, interest rates at the beginning of 2024 are higher than they have been for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And commercial real estate is about finance more than anything else. It's about
Great
what
point.
is your net operating income? And it's that net operating income that really establishes the value of the property.
Man, wow. I thought 6 months was long. you you brought a lot of context to that, and yeah, I don't. You have to be built different to do that. I already see residential as a challenge, and I'm not even a real estate agent. But to get into commercial, whole nother ball game. You got it.
Do you mind if I tell you
You
another
got
quick
it.
story?
Please.
Okay. So July of 21, all right, I closed 3 medical buildings where I was representing the buyers on 3 different medical buildings. The one that closed, and they all closed within 10 days of each other. All right. One of them I'd started working on, it was like 22 months earlier before I got it
Mm-hmm.
to close. Another one I worked on for 4 months, and the last one, 22 days. And so but they all closed within 10 days of each other, and they were all medical buildings for dentists.
That's crazy.
Okay.
That's
But see, the
amazing,
thing
actually.
is you
How do you?
have to have a pipeline. You have to have multiple things that you're slicing your time on, so that you're devoting a little bit of time to this transaction, a little bit of time to this one, a little bit of time to that one. And so I've always got multiple things in the pipeline I'm working on that have different time horizons associated with them. And I'm working with different agents around the country on their projects.
That it got okay. I might have to go off track again, but that just brought something else up to me. I have to ask you, Chris, how do you manage doing these multiple projects at once? Right? I've heard someone say before, you have to focus on one thing at a time, master that, and then move on to others. You're doing multiple at once, and we're not talking about little deals. We're talking about commercial properties and deals. How do you manage all of these, juggling all of these simultaneously?
Yeah. It probably goes back to my career that I had coming out of college. Certified financial planner and then
Mm-hmm.
tax practitioner. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a couple of hundred tax returns every year for small business owners. And I had to, and I didn't have any staff. I did this all myself. All right. And so I had to be able to keep up my communication with my clientele. And I had to keep track of what was going on with my clientele. And I had to calendar when I worked with them. And so one of my new projects for 2024 is I'm actually building a ground up customer relationship management system that includes automated emails, automated texting, and all kinds of cool things. Funnels for capturing new leads. You know, it's going to be cool, and I'm
Nice.
developing it for
Yeah.
my own business and for my team. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's going to really help because a lot of people they're used to doing one thing at a time and not multitasking. And it's not really
Right.
multitasking, but it's managing multiple projects at once. And just with my background, it's just something that I do naturally.
I get it. I get it. Yeah. You were literally built for this, and I understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, and I respect it. I want to congratulate you first and foremost. I see you are elected to be the future president of the Realtor Commercial Alliance of Orange County. So congratulations first and foremost. Serving in 2024, correct?
Yeah. So my term started on January 1st. And so I'm the president for this year. It's a lot of fun working with commercial realtors. And what's fascinating about the Realtors Commercial Alliance of Orange County is we are the only association of realtors in the state of California that is 100% focused on commercial real estate. We're the only one. And so
Interesting.
we're a smaller organization, and one of my goals for this year is for us to develop a larger presence and to interact more with other associations around the state of California and serve their members so by providing commercial education. And I kind of look at us as a bridge for residential agents to cross into commercial.
Got you. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like to hear that. That's just more example of you actually putting in the work, getting curious, getting involved, and you say the only realtor group in California for commercial properties, correct?
The only association of realtors.
Association of realtors.
Okay.
There we go.
So,
Go.
on a local level, most associations of realtors serve a small geographic area. And so our association overlays on top of the local associations and offers education and training on commercial real estate. So we're called the Realtors Commercial Alliance of Orange County, but I live 8 hours away in Placer County, just outside of Sacramento, and I'm still the association president.
Sheesh. Because I'm assuming you're not holding in-person meetings on a weekly basis. Oh, virtual. Yeah, there you go. Goodness, 8 hours.
This is the great thing about post-COVID is we're used to meeting on our computers.
Yep, that's a good point.
But we still do some live in-person meetings. And so I'm going to have to be going down to Orange County and participating in those too this year.
Beautiful. So what initiatives or changes do you hope to implement during your term?
Yeah, so the first thing that I'm working on is coming to what does the board want to do and helping the board establish a vision of what we're going to do together. You know what they say, you can go fast if you're by yourself, but you can go far if you're with others. And so the first thing is got to get the team together. And what do we want to accomplish as a collective, as a community, as a tribe, versus what does Chris want to do?
Right.
But I'm pretty sure that we're going to be talking about outreach and gaining strength in numbers and doing that by education and by offering value to our residential counterparts.
Nice. I want to ask you this question, even though I feel like I already know the answer. So let's just do it anyway. I want to ask, how are you staying up to date on the latest trends and developments within commercial real estate? Now, I would assume that you would probably, just stay in the loop, stay communicating and talk to people within your network and circle. Is that the only resource, or are there any other methods that you use to stay up to date on things?
There's so many ways. For one thing, I actually am the group administrator and the founder of multiple social media groups. Most of them are within a brokerage that has over 90,000 agents worldwide. And so I actually have several thousand between different groups that I am the administrator and founder of agents that I'm cultivating information for them. And so if I'm going to be serving others, I got to find things to serve to them, right? And so that's one of the things is I'm always out there looking for what's in the news, what articles, what videos will be helpful and supportive of the communities that I am serving,
I
So
anticipated
that's a
that.
huge
Yeah.
part of it. And then, of course, you're talking to other people all the time. It's like, I'm a naturally curious person, right? When I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
my mom used to say, Chris, you can't be so curious. A cat only has 9 lives, you know? He's like,
Curiosity
you've
killed the
already
cat
used
is
up
what they
8 of
say,
them. You're going to ask a question. You're going
right?
to get smashed again. It's like, no, it's okay, mom.
Let the kid ask
Oh,
questions.
yeah. Lots of
Hey,
questions.
so I have this question, but I don't necessarily know if I don't know if it makes sense. So help me out with this, right? From my understanding, commercial real estate involves businesses moving into certain spaces so that they can operate, right? With businesses comes jobs, specifically for whatever community that they're in. So being a commercial real estate agent yourself, how do you feel like leveraging the knowledge of what's going on in the commercial real estate space within a specific community? How do you leverage that with residential agents who may be assisting clients with homes in that same area? Is there any type of cause and effect of a business moving into a certain commercial space, and as a result, maybe the homes there become more valuable, or people there can work there now? Any direct experience with that at all?
Well, you see it all the time where a business moves into a community and it brings an influx of employees, or a business shuts down something in a community. You
Oh, yeah,
know,
good
look
point.
at
Good point.
what's happened in Michigan with the auto industry. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see all these auto plants and stuff, shriveling up and being closed down. And then you see, oh, now they're doing electric things. So they're going to hire some people. But then hold it, it actually requires less workers, so we're just going to reallocate some of our internal combustion engine people over to the electric division, but we don't need as many, so I guess we're shutting down anyhow. And then you've got
Oof.
Elon Musk, you know, opening up a factory, say in Austin, and now Austin's already a thriving, growing area, and then all of a sudden Elon says, "Hey, we're going to move another few thousand people in here," and so that drives housing prices and demand, right? So
Right,
there's a
right,
huge correlation between business and residential.
right. Okay. So you're not necessarily, having any discussions or talks with maybe residential agents, or maybe are they picking your brain about, hey, is any companies looking to purchase this space that can affect this, or do you know of
Well,
anyone?
see, it goes back to
Please.
what I was talking about earlier when I'm talking to
Okay.
agents who want to get into commercial real estate. Is you've got to build and develop and maintain your network. Okay. So
Right,
I'm
right.
always talking to residential agents all over the country. Yeah, I'll get
Mhm.
sometimes 3 or 4 calls every day from residential agents calling me up and saying, "Hey, I've got this potential commercial deal. What should I do with it?" And I'm asking them questions about what their experience is and what their career trajectory has been, to see if they are someone that would be appropriate for me to partner with, or if they should find a local commercial person in their area to refer the business to. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm dealing
Okay.
with people all the time, and people are calling me. Like yesterday, I had a phone call with an agent and their client in Chicago. Okay. And so I get a text in 2 days ago, and this person's like, "Hey, Chris, this person, they want to get an ag loan. Can you help me with that?" And one of the cool things about being commercial is I also support my clients with their lending needs, because I have a huge network of lenders that I work with. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm always connecting people. In fact, my personal branding is, I am personal your professional connector. So your professional connector with a little trademark symbol has been my actual personal branding for almost a decade
Nice.
now. But
There it
anyhow, so I'm
is.
always connecting people and always trying to gauge, is this a project that this person can do on their own? Is this a project that I can partner with them? Or is it something that they need to get some other assistance on? So yesterday, we did this Zoom call with the client and the other agent. And I listened to this person and what their vision and their goals were and stuff. And as they were talking, I was helping them, kind of mentoring them and saying, well, I understand this and answer this a little bit more. And okay, based on what you're saying, have you developed your business plan yet? Well, yeah, I got someone working on it. Well, does your business plan include this, this, and this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know. I guess those are great ideas. Okay, great. And then, well, you're doing something in a distressed area, Chicago. You've got a lot of unemployment and stuff. Have you talked to the economic development department at your city about any
Mm.
grant programs they might have for bringing jobs and industry into a distressed neighborhood? And to, ooh, wow, oh, that's possible. There's
Yeah.
all these
Yep.
different
Yep.
things that my 40 years of experience before I even got my license brings to the table to help people move deals forward and to get them to the closing table. Notice how I brought that in
Yeah. Oh, no pun intended, right? Hey, great resource right there. That's information I wasn't even privy to. I love to hear stuff like that, giving people access to knowledge and learn things to get them ahead of the curve. I want to ask you, from your perspective, in your experience throughout your career, what do you feel like is the most challenging aspect of the commercial real estate industry? And can you recall a specific time or situation that exemplifies this challenge?
uh, okay, there's a lot of things that are challenging, but I think no matter what you're doing, it's maintaining solid personal relationships so you can transact business. That's really critical. And a lot of that has to do with communication and keeping open lines of communication. I mean, the deals that fail. In fact, I like to say that a commercial real estate traction is probably going to fail, and you're going to have to pull it out of the ashes 3 times before you get it to the closing table. All right.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like keeping those lines of communication open and dealing with interpersonal issues and stuff like that. There's so many different things. Oh, I got a call coming in right now from a residential agent that wants to talk to me about commercial real estate. I see it on my caller ID. But it's that whole communication thing. That's really the
Mm-hmm.
most important thing. And
I
success is
agree.
driven by it, and failure is driven
I
by it.
agree.
And so,
I
but
agree.
then
Yep.
you've got, especially dealing in California, dealing with government bureaucracy. And I find that some, um, bureaucracies are much easier to deal with than others, especially when you're trying to deal with zoning issues and getting permits. Even
Mm-hmm.
things like
Mm-hmm.
certificates of occupancy, which is something you may never have heard of. It's like, agents will call me up. They're like, hey, Chris, I had this call, no joke, about 3 months ago. An agent calls me up and he's like, hey, Chris, I've got this client. I helped him get into a lease, did all their tenant build out and everything. They just went to the city and they found out this morning that the city won't give them a permit to operate their martial arts studio because the place where they put their building it's not allowed. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
It's like, hold it. This is the very
Wow.
first thing we do when we're looking at commercial property is we make
Yeah.
sure with the city that we can do exactly what the client wants to do. I'm like, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. I hope that
Yeah.
you told them to go take care of that before signing the deal. It's like, yeah, I did. They said, do you have it in writing? It's like, yeah, I got an email. It's like, okay, but
I
even
know.
even if you have the email saying go to the city and get clearance before you sign the lease, that doesn't mean you're not going to get sued.
Right. 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 Right.
Does that
Yeah.
help you with that?
Communication. No. 100%. Communication. I would 100% agree with, because like we spoke on earlier, it's something so simple and you would think it's common sense, but it lacks. I don't know if it's an ego thing or if it's I don't know. I really don't know what it is, but everybody seems to be too busy just to communicate simple things sometimes, and it'll take things over your head. So I 100% agree with that. And thank you so much, Chris, for pulling up a seat to the closing table and sharing your information. We appreciate that. At this point, if you have any last words and or want to tell someone how to reach out to you, the floor is yours.
So, number one, thank you so much for having me. This has been a fun time talking with
Thank you.
you, sharing stories. Um, and I can see at some points, you're like, oh, that's new. And I love it when
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to
Mm-hmm.
people and they're like, oh, wow, this is new. And I'm hoping that the audience also got a lot of joy from this and education. And I would like to invite everyone to please join me on YouTube. Chris, the @ youtube.com/@ Chris Vogt, CHR. Oh, my name is right there. So Chris Vogt .CRE, or not, there's no dot in the YouTube thing. Chris Vogt, CRE. CRE stands for commercial real estate. So find me on YouTube. Please subscribe. Please watch the videos. And as you watch the videos, interact. Let me know. Yeah. Click that little like button when you like the video. Just like I did with Kevin's videos before this. I'm like watching some videos. I'm like, oh, I love this. So I click and click that like. And if you can comment, let us know what you like about the video, what future videos you want to see. That's always really important for us, so that YouTube algorithm, supports us by sending us out to more people. So YouTube, number one. Number two, LinkedIn. You can find me, Christopher E. Vogt, on LinkedIn. And I don't know if you can put my links in the show notes so that people can click on them. I'd really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And of course, if you are interested in getting into commercial real estate and you're looking for someone to work with, if you've enjoyed this conversation and you feel like we have a good vibe, I'd love to hear from you. My personal cell phone, okay? Is it okay, Kevin, if I give out my personal cell phone? My personal cell phone, and you can text me. Please start with text and text me at 530-830-9090. That's 530-830-9090. And it goes into do not stun mode at night. My wife says that do not disturb button starts at 10 p.m. And it won't bother me until the appropriate time for me to wake up in the morning. So I wake up in the morning a lot of times here on the West Coast with messages from the East Coast. And I'm happy to communicate with you, but please send me a text and let me know what is it that you're looking for. Please let me know who you are. So it's not like, hey, I've got a commercial real estate issue. It's like, okay, great. Well, who is it? And people will go like, hey, this is Sally. Okay, Sally who? And where are you located? So give me a little bit of information. So when we talk, we have a foundation to build on. But please reach out to me, 530-830-9090, 530-830-9090. Personal cell phone. Love to talk to you. Love to have you as part of my team and work with you to help you close your commercial transactions all across the United States.
Well said. Great place to land the plan. Thank you so much, Chris. And for our YouTube audience watching right now, if you've gotten to this point of video, like we said, hit that like button, please, and thank you. Make sure you also subscribe and share the content. If you are listening on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast platform, please do the same. Give us a like, give us a 5-star rating, and also subscribe for our latest content. So, Chris, on our way out, we are going to ask our audience a question to get their brains turning. It's very, very simple. Have you ever bought or sold commercial real estate? If so, what was your experience? Don't tell us now. Leave it in the comments below. Besides that, we'll talk to you next time.